New rhetoric is not a term I use. I know it's a term Professor Miller has used. She used it, yes. I know it's a term has been used by many people, very different people, each of them presenting themselves as the successor to the powerful technology of, I guess, of what they view whatever was the old rhetoric. I could say a little bit about what rhetoric means to me, and which has to do with the reflective understanding, reflective and strategic understanding of the means of communication from the point of view of users, in order to increase the skill of use, both for producers and receivers of language and interactants in language. And from that point of view, I see the kind of work I do in genre as very much part of that. I created that definition in part to be something that would conform to what I've been doing. But I'm not sure that that's what other people would call the new rhetoric.
The people that I'm familiar with who use the term, I think mean at least two particular things by it, and there may be more, but I'll focus on these two right now. One is to distinguish the new rhetoric from the old rhetoric by rejecting the notion that rhetoric is communication that is necessarily deliberate, strategic, and in effect has overt designs on people and therefore is understood as manipulative, but to include the understanding that our rhetorical intentions can be not fully known by us, that we are not always fully aware of what we are doing or why we are doing it. So that this is Kenneth Burke's insight that rhetoric can be subconscious, unconscious, that communication, language in use always includes a persuasive dimension that may not be fully within our control. He talked about identification, that is a kind of movement toward affiliation with others, of aiming to influence, to liken oneself to others, to try to make others like us, in both senses of that word, now that I think of it. That again goes beyond, I think, the notion that we have to always have sort of deliberate strategies in mind when we're talking about rhetoric. The other dimension that people who talk about new rhetoric are trying to distinguish from the old rhetoric is to include forms of communication that go beyond the prototypical public speaker, the powerful politician making a speech to the unpowerful masses, in the streets. And this would then include many different kinds of verbal and nonverbal communication, the multimodality that we talked about a little earlier. Even people are saying, well, could be a rhetoric to architecture. There could be a rhetoric to a parade or to a mass demonstration. There can be people have gotten very interested in the rhetoric of memorials. The process of memory and the creation of memorials to events or to persons. So it's an opening up of rhetoric to a variety of possibilities of symbolic communication, and an opening up of rhetoric beyond the deliberate, conscious, strategic use of language.
And I would, if I could just add a footnote to that, and again, now this isn't about not the new rhetoric as other people use it, as I use it. I would agree that many uses of language are not deliberate. spontaneous. I also see rhetoric as raising the possibility of becoming more conscious and therefore more thoughtful in one's choice, just as let's say a yogi can become more aware of their heartbeat and their pulse rate, and therefore can do more with it and recognize more about them. I would also differ on the word, I think, persuasion or argument, persuasion. Now, for many people that's a core notion of rhetoric. For me, it's not, because I see many forms of symbolic action as not being, as having ends other than persuasion, and I would like to have reflective knowledge and strategic thought, not just about manipulation or persuasion, but about being cooperative, for example. So I would maybe substitute the word influence. How do you influence another person?
Precisely.
And again, I think that opens up wider ranges of areas for rhetorical consideration.
Right. Well, I think that's precisely the motion that the new rhetoricians are attempting, is to go beyond the, as I said, the manipulative understanding of persuasion, but to see cooperation as a form of mutual persuasion, which again, persuasion is one of those words that has an edge to it that you always have to be careful of.